Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Right Dull Videos. Today we have another, we haven't done any type of videos like this in a while, but I'm going to be bringing back some rebuilds, just because I've got a little bit of free time and I'm trying to find something to do with it. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be trying to do a rebuild of a 0 overall team. The Vikings are not the worst team in the league right now. However, it does look like they're probably going to lose their quarterback, depending on how things go with Kirk Cousins. Maybe they'll re-sign him. We'll kind of see what happens in real life, what happens with the whole quarterback situation. But they just did not live up to expectations coming off of what they did last year. And then it also helps that this was kind of the most up-to-date 0 overall team that I could find out there. To be really used for this type of a rebuild. So we're going to be playing as the Vikings. We're going to create our own custom coach here, and I'm going to meet you back in a second here just to kind of go over what the general thoughts are. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. So going into this first season, I'm not going to play anything whatsoever. I'm basically just going to sim the entire season. When at the end of the season here, we're actually going to end up probably having a couple players that will be undrafted free agents. We're going to keep those guys in. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of signing in this off season and just that kind of general idea of trying to bring players in. And we're going to really hope that we have a good draft. I'm going to be rocking with entirely computer auto-generated drafts throughout this rebuild, just to kind of keep it fair, as opposed to trying to use some draft class that might be a little broken that somebody has made, at least even for just this first year. Just because a lot of those draft classes that people have already made are kind of more along that type of a line. So here we are at the playoffs. So it's kind of looks like it's signed probably a lot of our players that would have been people that we had on the practice squad and players of that sort. Of course, we went 0-17. In the game, the Packers did surprisingly well, considering I guess they did make the playoffs here in real life. But I don't think what we were expecting was them to go 14-3, because that might even be first round bye for them. But when we look at our playoff bracket for the first year, not a ton of surprising teams over here on the AFC. The only one might be the Titans, who are not in there. And then over here we have the Falcons, who we know they kind of have some broken playbooks on Madden 24. So they're kind of rocking with the playbooks, carrying them to this point. Overall, most of the teams that they do have in the playoffs in here are the teams that make the playoffs in real life, though, so that's kind of a good sign to see. And I mean, it does help for the Lions and the Packers that they did have those 2 automatic wins going against us this year. So now we're going to kind of sim just to see what players won awards and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a good season going into this. We're going to hopefully have a lot better of a season next year with trying to sign new players. I'm not going to go too crazy with signing players in the first year, just because I don't think just the idea of it, not a ton of players usually in the first year are available. But here we see the so this could happen, the Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. That would be a matchup from a couple of years ago, I believe. But in the sim here, Dak Prescott won the MVP. I don't know if in real life that'll ever happen, but we know in Madden that will happen quite a bit. But we have a couple. Lamar Jackson probably will win it in real life. He's the runner-up, so that's good to see. I just want to see if there are any players that somehow from the Vikings made it, which would be hilarious. The only thing would probably be like defensive rookie of the year if some guy got a ton of tackles, but it does not look like that happened for us. So I'm gonna meet up with you guys on YouTube here in a second when we get to basically signing players. At re-signing players, just on the off chance that there's somebody that snuck through there. Nick Foles snuck in there. I don't think we're going to sign Nick Foles. My guess is too many players got injured. And actually, a lot of these players who would not get re-signed and are not going to get re-signed don't want to come back. And so that's makes sense. I wouldn't want to go back to a team that just got 0 wins in the season. And they might not have scored any points. I don't even want to look at the scores. But we're going to go into free agency week 1 here. And with that, I'm really hoping there's some really good players that we can try to sign in here. We do have $121 million in cap room. I'm going to try to sign players that have some sort of interest in going to us. So all these guys up here at the top, I'm not going to even try to go after them just because I feel like it's a waste. Michael Pierce is getting up there in age. I'm going to try to sign guys only under the age of 30, basically. Connor Williams, we are signing. He only wants 2 years, but we're going to offer him probably 4 years here. He'll still be good at the end of that. It's a lot of money now, but we don't really have anybody at the center position, so it'll be worth it for us. And there's not a ton of other players that really are looking like guys that we want to reach out for at the moment. I'm actually going to sort by interest level. Jaron Kearse, McCole Hardman. I think we're gonna bring him in. We'll just offer him kind of what he's looking for, 3-year contract. He's not all that great, but in our offense, we can kind of take whatever we're going to get. Kaiser White, he actually seems like he might be a decent player for us. He's a scheme fit. I'm going to only offer him 2 years. I don't know how we could go Kearse, just like a 1-year contract type thing, but I kind of want to just go crazy in just the off season in like drafting and stuff. Chris Barnes, he's always a fun player to play with, and I don't know, he's young enough that I basically always sign him whenever I do a rebuild or a draft or a franchise series, even if it's just kind of on my own. Let's look for quarterbacks. None of them really want to come to us, other than like Cooper Rush down here. I don't even know who Skylar Thompson is, if I'm being completely honest. He probably played on some team this year as a backup, and I just have no idea who he is. But there's not really any of these quarterbacks we're going to go after here. We're probably just going to draft somebody. Running backs, we have Antonio Gibson. We're going to sign Antonio Gibson just because I don't think we're... Usually in the draft, I don't want to spend a ton of capital on somebody. There's not really... I guess we could try to offer Noah Fant. Because we are playing in a system that does kind of utilize that position that he plays. So let's offer him something. We're going to evaluate offers and then see if he's not... Yeah, so he didn't sign a contract. 4 years works for me. We're going to eventually get to the point where we're doing more. Let's see who all actually signed. So we've got Connor Williams, we've got McCole Hardman, and we got Antonio Gibson. Those are all great pickups for us. I don't know how badly we need some of these positions for the actual game. One thing I want to look at is our what do we have for our team as far as like scheme fits and stuff? They run a multiple, so we're gonna do 3-4 under, and then they do run a West Coast zone, so we are gonna rock with West Coast zone. And then I'm gonna kind of stop there with the recording for YouTube right now, and I'll catch up with y'all at the end of free agency. Alrighty, so just for a brief recap of free agency, kind of what our roster is looking like going into the draft. Andy Dalton we signed as a mentor. Hopefully we're going to draft a quarterback in this draft. Antonio Gibson, and we signed in free agency. We signed Mecole Hardman, Richie James, and Traquan Smith to be our wide receiver core. We also signed Dalton Keene, something that I didn't show in that last segment there. We signed David Edwards as a left guard, but we're going to move him over to left tackle just because he has the size and he was potentially going to play tackle going into the league. And we have 2 guards that I had not really ever heard of before. And then we signed DJ Jones at left end, Mario Edwards to play opposite him on the right end position, and then Justin Jones to be our defensive tackle, kind of like our nose tackle in this particular instance. And then we signed Zach Bond to kind of be our star edge rusher at the moment, Kaiser White and Carter Coughlin to be our middle linebackers. And then we just had a guy who was in the practice squad to be the other edge for us. And then Bryce Hall and CJ Henderson we signed to be our cornerbacks. And we signed Terrell Burgess. And I think that's how I spell his name, or say his name properly. Somebody can let me know if I'm saying that wrong. And then, but yeah, that's kind of our team going into the draft here. I think when we actually get to next season, I'm going to move one of those kickers because I just saw both of them were 60 overall, and it looked like the punter was a 12, aka a 0 in our instance. We're just going to kind of see if there were any upgrades for guys that weren't the 12 overall guys. So these are our guys that are kind of low overall. I was hoping there was somebody that we signed that we were going to be able to add some more onto, but we're just going to beef all those guys up by one. But yeah, I'm excited to see how kind of this next year goes, because we have a 70 overall now going into year 2, and we haven't even gone through the draft yet. So I'm gonna sim to the draft here, and then we're gonna hop right in. We will have the first pick. I think I'm probably gonna trade it down just because hopefully we don't have the first pick much going after this year. We are definitely going to probably have it next year unless something incredibly crazy happens. The only reason I wouldn't trade down is if we have a quarterback that looks like he is for sure basically that generational quarterback that you sometimes have that pops up in the drafts. There's usually one of them every couple seasons in the draft. This guy's top 5 in talent. I guess it really comes down to, do we think that our team is set up for this quarterback now? If he only has good throw power, but he has everything else. I think we have to draft this guy with the first pick. I guess I could look to see who's drafting after us. I think it's the Giants who should take a quarterback. The Texans pick from the team that they I don't think it's their pick themselves. I think it's the other team's pick. No, it would be their pick, so something crazy happened there. But is there somebody that's in like pick 2 or 3 that's trying to trade? Only the Colts at pick 4, and knowing Madden, they would draft that quarterback, even though they probably shouldn't. So we're going to take this guy. He looks broken. 99 speed as a quarterback is absolutely insane. 90 throw power, hopefully over the seasons that we'll have him, he's going to develop up past that. He does... This guy does not look like from his stats that he should be a quarterback, but he is, and we're going to rock with it because I just really want to play with a quarterback that has 99 speed. I don't know how that's possible. I've never seen that in the draft. I've seen 94, I've seen 95, but 99 is unheard of. I think Lamar Jackson has the highest speed rating in the game of a quarterback. I think he's 95 or 96. So the concept that this guy is coming into the league, practically breaking the 40-yard dash record is absolutely insane to me. We're just going to sim to our next pick. I knew he was going to be fast, but 99 speed is absolutely insane. Looking at this, we do need a power rusher. If this guy has decent... He's kind of... Not kind of... He is really slow. I don't think we can rock with that. He does look like he's better than this guy, but this guy's probably going to have the speed. He does not have the speed either. I know we just paid our free safety. I don't think any of these guys are really looking all that great. We do need a safety that's a strong safety because we don't really have one. Elite strength. I think this guy is going to be hidden, and this is probably one of our more needed positions of depth. And I feel comfortable drafting somebody. He's hidden dev. I'm glad. If he wasn't, I would be a little upset. Normally, when I've done this type of a thing where I've been like, this team's not going to be good this year, I just go for it and I trade a bunch of these picks away. But he seemed decent enough, and I don't think I was probably going to get offered a first-round pick, even though that could happen sometimes in real life. If we draft a corner, it's possible they would be our third corner because the corners that we have in there are not fantastic. We did sign one of those wide receivers to only a 1-year contract. I'm thinking that we probably are going to move on from them. Playmakers usually around that speed are decent or great, but hard to really know. If this deep threat has elite speed, he does not. He's slower than our quarterback. Then again, I think everybody's going to be slower than our quarterback. Yeah, it's really hard to make a decision. I am tempted to switch to the Ravens or the Eagles offensive playbook, but I don't think I'm going to be playing the game too much. I think corner is more necessary than wide receiver, and he's going to be a great man-to-man corner. Not great otherwise starting out, but he has hidden development. That's what we needed, especially since we didn't have our third round pick. So having that as an option here is great for us. We're going to sim ahead here to the 5th round pick, and then after this pick I am going to do the rest off camera for those of you over on YouTube. If you want to check out the full experience, I'm going to start trying to have somewhat of a schedule of doing Twitch streams coming out. But I think this is that same playmaker that we saw before. He looks okay. I think I'm going to pull the trigger and draft this guy right now. He's not hidden, but he looks like he's probably decent. If nothing else, he's a scheme fit and he should develop fairly well in this. But yeah, for those of you over on YouTube, I will meet you there in a second at the end of the draft. Alrighty, so here we are at the end of the draft. That quarterback wasn't quite as high of an overall as I expected him to be, but I think he's going to develop well. He's not too far off of being the other dev traits. I do think he's going to be stuck in a situation where he's going to be a scrambler the whole time. And I don't really want to have to change the scheme to fit around that. So I don't think I'm going to. I do wish that they still had a lot of the West Coast things being improvisers, just because I feel like it does fit the scheme a little bit better in how it all works. But Demetrius Hodges comes in at a 72 overall. He's going to start. And then that cornerback who we drafted that had that dev trait, he's a nice overall. And I think he's going to start probably in the slot for us, just because I think the two guys behind those two that we signed are lower overall. That wide receiver that those of you on YouTube saw last, he ended up being a 68 overall. It's pretty decent. I think that'll put him as the fourth wide receiver, but that'll probably set him up well going into next year to maybe be our third wide receiver. I drafted Justin Cooper. He looked a lot better than what he actually is. I think he had elite speed, which usually I go for just because usually that helps quite a bit in the game. But he did not have the other factor of he had fairly low acceleration. As you see right here, his acceleration was 83. That was considered poor in the grades. And then we signed this guy who, in the game, they have him listed as a left outside linebacker. We were going to move him into middle linebacker, just because I wanted a third guy in there. And I think he's probably going to play at least as the second sub linebacker. If not, I might actually just straight up throw him in to be the actual starting middle linebacker 2 in our team. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of go into the preseason week 1, and I'm gonna kind of play just to see how our new quarterback goes. Depending on what situations I get thrown into, I might actually record that. We'll kind of have to see how this game goes. I just kind of want to play with him in the game, kind of see how he operates, see if we made the right decision in not trading down, or if we absolutely nailed it. Just in terms of using him as a quarterback myself as opposed to the simulation, because ultimately in the end I want to be able to be the one playing the team actually as the in the playoffs of the game probably, and maybe in the Super Bowl if we actually get to that point. Okay, so what we're going to be doing for getting the play test of him going into the preseason here, I'm just going to play the first quarter of the first preseason game with him because that's basically all he would be in for. I tried doing it with him playing with the backups, but then it throws in all of the backup linemen, and all of our backup linemen currently are all the 0 overalls. And for our intents and purposes of this, it just didn't make sense to try and do that to ourselves. Going into next week, he would probably be listed as the starter anyways, but this gives us the opportunity to at least show you guys a glimpse into what this guy will be for the team, even if it's fairly short. And then we probably aren't going to be playing any more games the rest of this season. I'm going to be simming week by week, and just kind of going through that process of, as I go through the week by week, I'll be doing the development trait and upgrades of the players, and that's really all that's going to be happening. And I'll probably do some of the scouting stuff for options as well. But other than that, we're just going to kind of roll with it. I feel like Antonio Gibson going to the Vikings right now would actually be making sense a little bit. I know they're probably not going to, just because the current situation going on there, but I feel like he would be a really good player in that kind of thing they seem like they're trying to get going. Even if, I don't know, it's hard to know what's happening with the Vikings right now. A lot of teams are kind of in a weird state. We're dealing with the concept of all these head coaches that are getting hired right now. Hardman beat oh man, I was hoping Mecole Hardman was going to beat that guy in distance. I think that's probably going to be the end of it for us. I'm just going to go for it here on 4th down, just because it's the preseason, and they always take the preseason way too serious, I feel sometimes. And now we know he's not great under pressure. That might be why some of his other stats weren't all that great. We do have 27 seconds we can play with him, though. Just kind of test out our new rookie quarterback. Hopefully he is the right choice and we didn't just utterly make a terrible mistake. I've been finding that the newer system, I hadn't been playing on Next Gen until recently, and I've been finding a lot that the use of the different touch passes and stuff is quite difficult. Like there, I tried to do a lob pass or a touch pass, and it decided that I was doing a bullet pass. I think it's just all the time I spent in the older generations where everything was so different. But we're just gonna sim the rest of this game here, jump forward to the end, and I will see you all at the end of the season. Alrighty, everybody. So we are here at the Pro Bowl week. I just wanted to check it out. I don't think we probably have anybody in here, but I figured we might as well look. Not anybody on our offense is going to be on here. The only thing could be like our center, but I think he let up too many. I'm not imagining we have anybody on here, and it's looking like we don't, unfortunately. The only thing would be if somebody, we don't have anybody on there. We had a surprisingly good year. We did finish a lot better than I thought we did. I didn't think we were going to win any games. We won 3 games this year. That was good for us. There was one of them I was not expecting us to win whatsoever. The other 2, I was like, this could happen here. It would still be quite an upset, but I was like, it was a possibility. I'd been kind of looking at what the offensive rookie of the year thing was, really hoping our quarterback was going to get that award. It's looking like he probably isn't. There was the quarterback that Seahawks drafted. He had a couple more touchdowns on the year. That's really all it came down to in the end. But our quarterback that we were like, maybe we shouldn't draft him yet, he did end up being a superstar X Factor player, which is exactly what you're hoping for when you stay in that first overall position. We really needed that. That's going to help. If it wasn't a superstar X Factor, I would have felt very self-conscious about drafting him at number 1, just because we needed so many things at that point in time, but he looks like he will be the QB of our future. He did finish second. I did play around with a couple different playbooks, trying to find the one that really fits him best, trying to get one that will kind of consistently work for him. I started off, as I talked about, with the Falcons playbook, and then I switched into playing as the Buccaneers playbook, just because I was like, oh, I want to get him a bunch of yards. I know that playbook does that. Mainly it was the Falcons playbook takes so many touchdowns away from the quarterback because it really runs around through the running back. That's why Bijan Robinson is always up there in Offensive Player of the Year award systems. So instead, we did switch to the Cowboys playbook, and he did end up winning Offensive Player of the Week for one of those weeks that we were in that one. So I think we're going to stick with that going into the next season. We had Demetrius Hodges at third. I believe he was our one of our outside linebackers, and then we had our cornerback. Or no, he was our strong safety. That's who it was. And then Raphael Booker. He ended up as 6th in Defensive Rookie of the Year standings, which is pretty good. You would expect it maybe a little bit better because he was playing in the slot, and usually that produces numbers, but it did not really work for us in that today. And then other than Sims, we didn't really have anybody else that really played. We had that one wide receiver. He was the 4th on the depth chart, so he probably had a couple catches, but he didn't have anything significant probably throughout the season. We had the worst offense in the league, basically. We did have a fairly decent defensive front, which I think is partially due to we did have a full 70 plus overall group of that, as opposed to having some players that boosted up the overall where we didn't have that as an option. And I think it did well enough that we're not going to switch that playbook whatsoever unless we absolutely find a need to. Usually that playbook is really, really good for us. It's usually been really good for me when I've played this and sinned things. As I was progressing through, I think I have realized that for the most part, I'm not going to play anything, and I am just going to kind of sim through the season for this. In the future, if people are wanting a different kind of vibe with it, where I'm showing a little bit more of the season and I'm actually playing the games a little bit more, I can do that. It's just this is probably going to be a lot faster for me to get them out there for you guys. Terrell Burgess, he actually did get a dev trait scenario, and he did succeed in his dev trait scenario, which was really good. So he's only a star overall now, or star rating, but that's better than normal. And he did end up getting enough XP as well out of that he did get 2 upgrade points. And then the week after, he got one as well. But yeah, so we still have all these players here. I don't think, nobody would have gotten an award to give them enough XP. But if we look, all of our players are kind of down in overall at the moment, but here is our quarterback. He is actually an 82 overall. He's now an improviser. I've been upgrading that field general category, and so that's been getting him up there with the he had a little bit better of the defense, or the long range stats going in. But he's 21, and he has Superstar X Factor. His throw power did develop up to a 92, I believe. As you can see, almost all of his passing accuracy stats, other than medium, are above 85 now. His short is now up to an 87 before morale drop. I have been thinking about it. There's the potential that I might try to adjust his traits in the future heading on, but yeah, I think that's it for right now. He's been getting some rushing touchdowns as well in that playbook that he's in right now of the Cowboys, just because Dak does rush the ball a decent amount. Right now, his motivations aren't quite with us. Hopefully, he'll move up into the scheme fit before we need it. But right now, this escape artist, if I'm ever playing, is going to be really big. We just have to get a scramble of 10 plus yards, and usually you can be like brought back as if you're going to pass, and then you just run forward for 10 yards through the open hole that usually forms at some point. So when you're playing that, that can make it really beneficial. And then that gives the thing that used to be a superstar ability is now into this X Factor ability. So if I ever do end up playing as the character, that'll give me that opportunity to do so. I also have decided that I'm going to be splitting this up into separate parts. So this is going to be part 1. Look forward to part 2. And if you're interested in watching a little bit more, having a little bit of a conversation, you can stop over to my Twitch, which is also Right Dull Videos. I probably at some point on January 12th will be getting into doing that, just because I won't be occupied with anything else to do tomorrow. So yeah, I'll be trying to get this video out sometime in the afternoon-ish, and I'll be putting out and trying to start the next one later that night. Alright, thank you guys for coming and watching, and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks, bye.